What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome to NYJ today. So we are going to be talking about the new defensive scheme that we're going to be running for the Jets. We are switching from a 3-4 defensive scheme to a 4-3 defensive scheme, and I do think that this is the correct move to be making. I don't necessarily think that we have all of the personnel that we need to run it at its highest level. But in my opinion, the 4-3 defense is the best defensive scheme, and I'll give a couple of reasons why. First, the 3-4 defense, if you're not familiar, three defensive linemen are playing two gaps. They are a two-gap responsibility. They are to take up blockers, and it's their responsibility to be playing the line of scrimmage and maintaining control of the line of scrimmage. Then the linebackers, their job pre-snap, it's the responsibility of the offense to determine who is blitzing, who is going to blitz, which linebacker is coming, because typically you're not going to rush three. You're going to bring at least four on a 3-4 scheme. So it is up to the offense to determine who is that extra blitzer going to be. And in my opinion, blitzing is not the scheme that should be relied on. So like under Rex Ryan and under even Todd Bowles, we relied so heavily on the blitz to generate any pass rush versus the quarterback because we didn't have a true pass rushing threat. And I think moving forward, the best defensive teams are ones that do not rely on the blitz. Now, of course, you can blitz. There's nothing wrong with blitzing, and you should do it because it changes up kind of the tempo of the defense. It throws the offense off, and that's really what the blitz is supposed to be for. It's supposed to just be kind of like a monkey wrench that you throw in or an uppercut that you throw in every once in a while. But when you blitz every third down, it becomes too easy for great quarterbacks to dissect that. You got Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. You've got, literally you could name all of the top quarterbacks. They can tear those blitzes up because they're so good at determining who is actually going to blitz. They do a ton of studying, and they're able to review game tape to figure out who is going to be the blitzer. And so, in my opinion, moving to a 4-3 defense, it does a couple of things. Number one, we should not be relying on blitzing anymore to generate our pass rush, but it also puts an emphasis on finding a edge rushing threat, which we do not have. The Jets have to address that need. I would say that after quarterback, that is the top need on the team, is getting a pass rusher to come in here and to get the pass rush going. We have to get pass rushers. We have to get somebody to put pressure on the quarterback on third down because, as you know, the Jets struggle to get off the field on third down. That'll be 3rd and 10, 3rd and 7 to 3rd and 10, and we all have that feeling like, okay, they might get them off the field, but not necessarily, just because of that, not having that pass rusher. So long term, this is going to be the best defensive scheme for us and for us to have a chance to win. Because, again, we're not relying on a pass rush. We do not need a pass rusher, we do not need to blitz in order to generate our pass rush. And that's really what we need. We need to get after the quarterback without blitzing so much. So here's what I think we need to look at is the players that we have and how they fit in with the 4-3 defense. So right off the bat, Henry Anderson is somebody that I had mentioned in my podcast on Wednesday night. He is a cut candidate because he does not fit the 4-3 defensive scheme. That's actually the reason why the Indianapolis Colts traded him to us to begin with, because they were switching from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense, and he's just not a good fit. He can't play defensive tackle in that scheme. He's not big enough, and fat. I would say not not big enough, and not a good enough pass rusher. And he's really definitely not good enough to play defensive end in that scheme. He really is a prototypical 3-4 defensive end, and we have no use for him. Plus, we're going to save about $8 million by cutting him. So Henry Anderson, bon voyage. See you later, buddy. You are out of here. He's not going to be on the team. He saves us too much money, and he's just a bad scheme fit for the 4-3. Okay, so we've discussed Henry Anderson. Let's talk about Jabari Zuniga, a rookie that we just drafted in the 2020 NFL draft. He is from Florida. We drafted him in the 3rd round, and he did not have any production last year. He played very, very little, and it was just near the end of the year. So my expectation and my understanding is that Jabari is a much better fit schematically for the 4-3 defense. He is a more pure edge rushing defensive end. He was never really, in my opinion, a good fit for the 3-4 outside linebacker position. So transitioning from the 3-4 to the 4-3, I think it's going to be good for him. He's going to be able to just focus on getting after the quarterback, kind of like an Ngakoue, a unique Ngakoue. Can just, blow, use the speed rushing moves, spin moves, things like that to get after the quarterback. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that Jabari really makes a jump this year. I'm not expecting anything dramatic here. I'm not expecting double-digit sacks. But, we need to start seeing him develop in this defensive scheme for us to have success in the long term, because right now we don't really have any other defensive ends that we can look to and say who's getting after the quarterback. So that's a huge concern for me as far as the 4-3 goes, is our defensive end position. We do not have really any threats, so it's a problem. Now, when we talk about the inside defensive line, defensive tackle, we have literally exactly what we need. We have Quinnen Williams, who's going to provide a really, really solid interior pass rush, kind of like with Warren Sapp, what he did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a one-gap penetrating defensive tackle and just trying to go hit the quarterback. And that's exactly what Quinnen Williams is perfect for. He is an ideal fit for this 4-3 defensive scheme. So I can't wait to see him just get unleashed. And I think that's what Robert Saleh is. That's what he's excited about. On defense, he's got a complete stud in defensive tackle position. And Quinnen Williams can just be let go. He can just let him go and rush the quarterback. And then we have Foley Fatukasi next to him, who's an absolute stud. He's young, playing defensive end. And, he's not necessarily a pass rusher. But in my opinion, in a 4-3 scheme, you're going to want one defensive tackle to be your pass rushing force, and you want your other one to be kind of like the run stuffer who takes up a couple of blocks. And I think that's what Foley's going to do. He's going to do a great job of eating up some blocks and stopping the run. If you're in the chat right now, or if you're watching this right now, this live stream, please let me know what you guys think in the chat. I'd love to hear your ideas and your thoughts on the 4-3 change, or the defensive scheme change. If you're watching this live right now, I'd also like to just, hear, we can talk about anything. So if there's a Jets-related topic that we're not discussing right now, please let me know what you'd like to talk about in the chat. I'd love to switch up the topics if you guys just let me know. So anyway, getting back to it, we've got Quinnen Williams, we've got Foley Fatukasi, and another interior pass rushing threat that maybe not a lot of Jets fans know about is Jonathan Franklin Myers, the defensive tackle that we signed off of the LA Rams practice squad. This guy's young. He's not as talented as Quinnen Williams, but this guy, he shows up on tape. And a lot of Jets fans took notice of him last year. A lot of statistics, PFF and other analytics, they very highly regard Jonathan Franklin Myers as an up-and-coming player. And what's great about this is we have Quinnen Williams, who's not going to have to play every single down. And he doesn't ever play every single down anyway, but he's not going to have to be relied on just to get after the quarterback. We can also count on Jonathan Franklin Myers to sub in for Quinnen Williams. So we'll have Foley Fatukasi in there pretty much every run down, first, second down. And then you'll have two pass rushers in the inside that you can put on the field on third down. You could put Franklin Myers inside and Quinnen Williams on the inside. And you're not really suffering with run defending. So if it's like a 3rd and 4 and the team tries to run it, it's not like we're going to be all of a sudden so weak that we can't stop the run. What is going on from Germany, my man? I see you in the chat. Nice job. Thank you for coming in. So you said, I hope Huff, yes, Bryce Huff and Zuniga can make a good step forward as the defensive ends. What free agent ed players would you prefer? So, first of all, yes, Bryce Huff is somebody that I am looking toward and hoping that he can continue. I will say I don't have as high expectation for Bryce Huff as I do Jonathan Franklin Myers, or Foley Fatukasi, or Quinnen Williams. So I don't know. Bryce Huff could develop, but I'm just not sure. So I'm actually going to pull up a list of free agent defensive ends because I don't know them all off the top of my head, and I don't want to pretend like I do. So I'm just going to pull up a quick list here. And, here's the thing. There are going to be some people that shake free. So, like, right now, we don't know all of the players that are going to be available in free agency because there's going to be a ton of cuts being made. We know that the New Orleans Saints have a bunch of cuts they need to make. The Philadelphia Eagles have a bunch of cuts they need to make. So defensive ends are going to shake free. So right off the top of the list here, we've got, let's see. We've got Leonard Williams, who they're going to re-sign him. The New York Giants are going to re-sign him. He was highly, highly productive this year, so I doubt that he gets to the free agent market. Jadeveon Clowney, I do not want anything to do with him. He's going to be asking to be paid a ton of money, and his production is... So no Jadeveon Clowney for me. I would love to see Yannick Ngakoue. Now, it does say that he is scheduled to become a free agent. If Yannick Ngakoue hits the free agent market, oh yeah, I'm trying to get him on the Jets for sure. And he doesn't need to be a superstar on this defensive line for us to have a good defensive scheme, or a defensive unit. We need somebody that can just consistently get after the quarterback using speed rushing moves on the edge. So yes, Yannick Ngakoue would be my number one edge preference in free agency. You could also go the veteran route, and you could take a flyer on somebody like a Ryan Kerrigan. He is 33 years old, and I think that since we are transitioning from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defensive scheme, it's going to take time. Like, this is not going to be an overnight fix. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think that signing veterans in the interim and signing free agents that are older isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people are going to want one-year contracts this coming off season because of the cap situation in the NFL. So I would love to see us go after some veterans that are even older ones like Ryan Kerrigan. So right off the top of my head, I really like Yannick Ngakoue, Ryan Kerrigan, and the defensive end Everson Griffin. He's 34 years old. Again, he's still productive. He had 6 sacks last year. It looks like Romeo Okwara from the Detroit Lions. He's young and available. 10 sacks last year, it looks like. So he would be a great candidate. And then another defensive end that could shake free is the Saints defensive end. Hendrickson, I think his name is. He was very productive. And again, I mean, there's a ton of guys here on this list. Bruce Irvin's available. He's an older guy. He didn't have any production last year. Excuse me. Justin Houston, he's 32 years old, 8 sacks last year. I would be on top of that. That would be a good signing. Danico Autry from Indianapolis. He's 31 years old, and he had production last year as well. So these are some guys that I would go after. Thank you for the question. Those are guys that I think we need to target. We need to get at least one or two of those guys because, again, right now we are not we don't have the personnel fully to run this 4-3 scheme like we would in about 2 or 3 years. We're going to be able to run this defense a lot better once we get some more players that meet the needs of the scheme. So I see that I still have some viewers out there. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, just comment. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think about this new defensive scheme. If you don't want to talk about that, we can talk about anything else. But yeah, I'm just going to continue to kind of talk about our switch from the 3-4 to a 4-3 if I don't hear from you. Something that I think is underrated in this new defensive scheme is Robert Saleh. Now, I know he's not going to be calling the plays on defense on game day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to have any hand in coaching these defensive players up. He is. He will be an impact. He will have an impact on the defense, and he will be able to help to develop these players. So I think having Robert Saleh with a defensive background, I think it's going to help us to change this scheme pretty quickly, or at least faster than normal. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with a Quinnen Williams. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with all these young defensive pieces that we have in the front seven. We have Bryce Huff, Jabari Zuniga, Jonathan Franklin Myers, Quinnen Williams, Foley Fatukasi. We have linebackers, Blake Cashman. He hasn't been a bust. We're not going to say he's been a bust, but he's been injured, and we don't really know what he is But we do know that he is a speedy linebacker, and he could be a good fit at that weak inside linebacker position. He can kind of like use his speed to get around the line of scrimmage to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. So yeah, be interested to see him in this new scheme as well. Straight Fire, thank you for your comment. 4-3 can only work if they have a pass rusher, but I like Quinnen. He can make big time plays. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. I don't know if you just joined us or not, but yeah, so 4-3 scheme, it's not reliant on a pass rush, or excuse me, it's not reliant on a blitz scheme. You can blitz, but really and truly, your 4-3 defensive scheme is super simple. You are using your front four to generate all of your pass rush. Like you said, you really need pass rushers. We do not have that. And I think that we all need to keep in mind that this is the first year of this new scheme that we're going to be running. And there's going to be bumps in the road. It's not going to be perfect. And just keep in mind that the San Francisco 49ers, the first year that Robert Saleh was there was a lot of people actually disappointed with him because they weren't playing great on defense. On defense. But he just needed to add pieces. And obviously they did. They signed Dee Ford from the Kansas City Chiefs. They drafted Nick Bosa in the draft. So he's going to come here and he's going to find those pass rushers. He's going to bring those pass rushers to the team, and I think it's going to work beautifully because again, a lot of defensive tackles, they're not relied on for pass rush. There are some that can do that, but we have one. We have one that can do that. And so here's the key to this defense. If we can get an edge rusher, we can pair that with our inside pass rusher in Quinnen Williams and Jonathan Franklin Myers, and offenses are going to have a serious problem trying to make plays and to execute. When you've got people that can generate a pass rush in the face of the quarterback and on the edge, he can't step up into the pocket. He can't roll out of the pocket. There's an edge rusher coming. So there is a lot to be excited about with this scheme because of people like Quinnen Williams and Jonathan Franklin Myers, because when you combine an interior rush with an edge rush, you're going to cause a lot of pain and suffering for your opponents on game day. So that's the thing that we need to remember is this year might not be great because we don't have that edge rusher as of right now. But when we do find him, we might have an elite defense on our hands. And we might not need the best cornerbacks in the secondary to cover because we're going to be getting after the quarterback very quickly. The next comment says, in the draft, I want Carlos Boogie Basham Jr. He is a beast and could be available in the second round. Let's take a quick look on Carlos Boogie Basham. Carlos Boogie Basham. So I don't know about this player, and I'm glad that you are bringing him up because this is okay. He's from Wake Forest, 6'5", 285 pounds. It's a little bit heavy for a defensive end. I don't know about I don't know necessarily if he's a scheme fit for the 4-3 at that size, but he could probably do it. I mean, if he is a edge rushing threat like you are suggesting, then yes, I'm all for it. And I'm going to be doing more research on these players. Probably once the combine comes around, I'll be doing more research and posting more videos on these defensive players. I'm actually going to do a video on just pass rushers for the channel, So it looks like here it says during his career, Basham appeared in 45 games. That's a lot of games. That's good. So a lot of experience. 6'5". He had 36.5 tackles for a loss. Holy moly. 20.5 sacks in his college career. That's pretty good. That's about a sack every 2 games. It's the 4th most in program history. Nice. And he finished the 2019 season with 11 sacks, which was 2nd most in the ACC. Schlong, thank you for bringing him up. I love it. And yes, 2nd round pick. Assuming we don't trade it away for a quarterback for like Deshaun Watson. Hell to the yeah. Hell to the yes. We need a pass rusher. I want a pass rusher more than any other position other than quarterback. I know we need an interior lineman. I know we need a wide receiver. But in the draft, I would like to get a young pass rusher. And if it's in the second round or if it's the Seattle first round pick, hell yeah, let's do it because we need one. If we get one, our defense is going to jump because, again, I've said it already a couple of times, having the interior pass rusher, an elite one, to pair with a good to elite edge rusher, you're looking at a top 10 defense without question. All right, Straight Fire says, agree, but who in free agency can be available? Hassan Reddick is fantastic as well as Shaq Barrett, but they're better suited in a 3-4. The draft is the better route. Yeah, no, we talked about that earlier, Straight Fire. So there are a bunch of free agents. I had mentioned Ryan Kerrigan. He's a veteran. And again, while we're transitioning, we're not going to have studs at every position. And we're not going to have young players at every position. I think it's unrealistic to think that. We're going to need to do a little bit of patchwork and getting players in here who fit the scheme. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to get a Ryan Kerrigan who's nearing the end of his career, who's still productive, to kind of help us to build the bridge towards having a defense that completely meets the needs of the scheme. There was another player that I really liked in the list. I believe it was Aquara from the Lions. I don't know if he'll shake free, but he would be somebody that I would be really interested in targeting. So yeah, would be all about that. What else do you guys want to talk about? So I've kind of squeezed out all the juice I can for the 3-4 to 4-3 defensive scheme. I guess we could talk about the cornerbacks. So Bryce Hall, and I've mentioned him in another video on the channel. Bryce Hall is a great fit for this 4-3 scheme, and I think that he is a great fit for Robert Saleh to be coaching. So if y'all don't, I mean, I know you probably do know, but Richard Sherman was drafted out of the 5th round from Stanford, I believe. And I'm not saying that Bryce Hall is going to become Richard Sherman. That's kind of a stretch because we know Richard Sherman is a great player of his time. But they are very similar. They were both drafted in the 5th round. And we also know that they both are tall and they both have long arms. And they're not really the fastest players. So for me, the players that I'm the most excited for, I've kind of mentioned the young ones on the defensive line, but also Bryce Hall. He fits the scheme perfectly. We're going to be playing a lot of cover 3. We're going to be playing a lot of cover 4, and he is an ideal fit for this zone scheme that we're going to be running. He's not really going to be built for man defense. He can play it, but he's going to excel at that. He's going to really excel at the zone defense. Straight Fire, you made me laugh. Bring in Revis. Why bring him back? Why not? No, he is toast, and you know it. He's not coming back. But we could use him right now. That's for damn sure. Because Revis he's a Hall of Fame player. Rafferty Kleinert. I don't believe I've seen you in our chat before. Welcome. Thank you for the comment. If you are new here, please subscribe. We would love to have you. We are doing so for everybody that's in the chat right now and who's watching. We are doing a free giveaway this Wednesday. If you are subscribed, if you like the stream on Wednesday, and if you are a subscriber, I don't know if I said that already, and if you comment, there's going to be a free giveaway on Wednesday. So Rafferty, please subscribe. We would love to have you. I'm going to get to Schlong first and then Rafferty. Schlong said, for me, cornerback in free agency or draft is also much important, like edge, maybe same importance. Yeah, I would argue the pass rusher is slightly above the cornerback because you can kind of hide issues in the secondary with a great pass rush. So I just give the edge barely to an edge rusher over a cornerback. But yes, they are both of very important positions to address. We only really have Bryce Hall right now that we can kind of hang our hat on and say this is a talented young player who can develop and become potentially a star in our defense. Rafferty, he says, who should we look at in the draft and free agency? Again, Rafferty, you better hit that subscribe button, buddy. I'm glad you're commenting. So we talked a little bit earlier. If we do not trade for Deshaun Watson, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the Jets do in the free agency because we know free agency comes first. Free agency, there's a player named Dak Prescott that could be available. And So let's just keep in mind, Dak Prescott, before he got hurt this year, he was on an MVP level of performance. He was killing it this year. And I'm not saying the Jets are going to do that. I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if they'll sign Dak Prescott. But if we did sign Dak Prescott, we wouldn't have to draft a quarterback at number 2 overall. We wouldn't have to trade for Deshaun Watson. So I think people need to think about that. I think Joe Douglas might be intrigued by the idea of being able to use his draft assets to build the rest of the team while addressing the quarterback position in free agency. I would be very intrigued by that option. If we lose out on getting Deshaun Watson, I think Joe Douglas should look into that and to getting Dak Prescott. That could be a very interesting move to make in free agency because it impacts everything. So we talked about in free agency also, we need to get some edge rushers in here, Rafferty. We spoke about Ryan Kerrigan. We talked about Aquara. He was potentially a free agent that's going to come out. We also said, let me pull up the list again here. Pass rushers, free agents 2021. So let's see here. So we said Leonard Williams, he's available as of right now, but the Giants are almost certainly going to tag him or re-sign him. I do not want anything to do with Jadeveon Clowney. I feel like Jadeveon Clowney is smoke and mirror. A lot of people still remember him as the number 1 overall draft pick. He is not that player anymore. Justin Houston is another guy we talked about as far as signing a free agent at defensive end. And Yannick Ngakoue, I would love Yannick Ngakoue. Justin Houston would be great. I am a Yannick Ngakoue fan, straight fire. I don't know if we can count on him to be a stud, like an absolute freak on the edge. But yes, I do like Yannick Ngakoue because he fits the scheme really well. And I feel like he's young still. He's only 26 years old. So I'm all over. I would be if we could get Yannick Ngakoue in free agency, I'm all over for that. Maybe you disagree. If you do, let me know. I would love to hear what you have to say about that. In the draft, Rafferty, it really just depends, man. So it's hard to predict what we're going to do in the draft because we don't know what we're going to do during free agency. So I'm going to hold off on that question because it could go so many different routes depending on what we do. If we trade for Deshaun Watson, it changes everything. If we don't get Deshaun Watson, it changes everything. So it really just depends on what happens in free agency. Straight fire, you said I wouldn't spend big in free agency. However, knowing Joe Douglas, he'll pick up a few in the draft, and keeping May as essential as the rover. He's a Pro Bowl caliber safety. Couldn't agree more. Yes, he's not going to spend big time money in free agency. Joe Douglas is not built like that. And honestly, I don't think anybody's going to be spending big money in free agency this year. There's too many teams that don't have money, and we all know that the cap has been impacted greatly by the COVID pandemic. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think anybody's going to be really spending a big amount of money in free agency. We just got to wait and see. And yes, Marcus May has to be re-signed. He's still in his 20s. He's productive. He's been healthy. I think you got to re-sign Marcus May, especially because we saw what Ashton Davis was last year, and we saw that he still needs time. He needs to develop. Ashton Davis is not ready to be counted on to play every down. He can come in and play a little bit and be a rotational kind of safety. But yeah, we need Marcus May back. We cannot let him go. Let's see. Shong, you said, I really hope Austin will be great, but he struggled late in the season. Hall and Poole will be awesome, but then we have nothing at cornerback. And please no Desir and Johnson anymore. Yeah, Trumaine Johnson is a thing of the past. Pierre Desir is a thing of the past. I do not think we can count on Bless Austin. He may even be a potential cut candidate. He really struggled, like you said, in the last part of the season. A lot of people say he's a good player because he makes a big tackle and stuff like that. He makes hard hits at the cornerback position. I would actually like to see the Jets consider moving him to safety. He's struggling at cornerback right now. We've seen him make big hits. He's very aggressive and very physical. I would love to see him actually try out safety. I think he might even be a better safety than he is a cornerback. Bryce Hall, I'm all on. I'm a big fan of Bryce Hall. Now, Brian Poole is interesting. So he got hurt and missed the last part of the year, but he was very productive this season prior to being hurt. Or not very productive, but he was a solid player. And the year prior, he was a very good player. So yes, if we can re-sign Brian Poole, that would help tremendously because then we can keep Bryce Hall on the outside, we can keep Brian Poole in the slot, and then we're really just trying to look for a third cornerback to be our another outside corner. So yeah, I'm all aboard on that train as far as keeping Brian Poole and re-signing Marcus May. Sorry. All right, what else you guys got for me? Anything else? Let's hit another topic maybe. I got about 3 more minutes before I have to get back online for my job here. Thanks for coming in to hang out with us. Rafferty, if you're still there, please subscribe to the channel. We would love to talk with you. We are having our show Wednesday, so Straight Fire Schlong. Please come back on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. We are doing a giveaway. All you have to do is be a subscriber, which you guys are. You have to like the stream, and you have to leave a comment. So technically you could do that now because the stream is already set up. It's on the channel. So go to it now, like the stream for Wednesday that's scheduled, and put a comment in there. You can leave us a topic to discuss, and you will be a candidate. You will be qualified for the free giveaway. It is a Jets koozie that we are, I'm going to put out a picture on Twitter. So if you're interested on getting that, just take a look. It'll be out probably this weekend. I'll send a picture out on Twitter so that you guys can see what the koozie looks like. I'm going to be giving away 3 of them. So Schlong and Straight Fire, these will be our last questions here. So Schlong says, will Mosley be the same like 2 years ago? Dude, that is a huge, huge wild card and mystery right now. So I don't think he will. That's my first thing I'm going to say. I don't think he will be the same player. We saw what happened to Le'Veon Bell from sitting out about a year and a half. They play different positions, and they're different people, and they're different players. I don't think he'll be the same. Now, having said that, even if he's just a good player, not a great linebacker like we had signed him to be, he would still be a big help as we transition again from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense. I don't think they can cut him this year, even though he's making ridiculous money. I don't think they can actually cut him this year. I think he becomes a cut candidate next year without a huge cap hit. So it's a huge mystery, Schlong. I have no idea what Mosley's going to be. He's probably going to be rusty. And the only thing I would say is I hope that we have a training camp and a preseason this year for him to be able to shake off that rust. We did not have a preseason this past season. So hopefully he can get some playing time in and get that rust knocked off. Straight Fire, excuse me. What about the running back solution, Johnson, Perine? Is that answer to you, not to me? No, they need to make a move. I don't know what they're going to do. Again, it kind of depends on what free agency, what happens, because they need to address quarterback. They need to address edge rusher. They need to address edge rusher and cornerback. So I don't think they can afford to spend a first-round pick on a running back. I know there's a lot of fans. Yeah, I do too, Schlong. I hope he's solid still too. I know there's a lot of fans that really are in favor of drafting somebody like Najee Harris or Travis Etienne in that 23 overall pick. I don't think we can I don't think we can do it right now. I don't think we're prepared to make a move like that for a position at running back. I think that it would help to have a great running back, but I think it's more important to build the offensive line, the defensive line, and the cornerback and quarterback positions. So if they wanted to draft somebody, I'm cool with that, because in my video earlier in the week, I talked about how I was not a big fan of Michael Perine. I didn't like what I saw from him. He seems like he's kind of running in mud. And when we saw Ty Johnson in there, he looked a lot better than Michael Perine. So I'm happy with Ty Johnson. I think he's good, and I think they should keep him, and I think that he should be part of a rotation next year. I'm very concerned about Michael Perine. I didn't like what I saw. Running back is not usually a position where you have to learn how to run behind an offensive line. You come into the league kind of knowing how to do that. It's more of a pass protection thing you have to learn. So I'm very concerned about Michael Perine. I don't know if he's a cut candidate, but I don't think he's going to be counted on, or should not be counted on, to be a 15 touch kind of guy. So yes, I would address the running back position, but I would look for rounds 2 through 5 for them to look to take somebody. But they could also sign somebody as well, and I would be completely in favor of that. This has been fun, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Straight Fire, Schlong, and Rafferty. I'm going to head out of here. I got to get back to work. Please like this video, and I will see you guys next time. See you probably this weekend. I'll be doing another upload. So have a great day, guys.